College can be like the shitty washing machine in my apartment complex.
It sucks.
And it's a vicious spin cycle of sucking. You'll study and do your homework and write an essay and study and pull all-nighters and study and eat during class to save time and study and study and study. And then fail the test. The point of this video, however, is not to remind you that college can suck sometimes. Ma'am, I am reminded of that fact every day when I open my Canvas notifications. The point is to help destigmatize this idea of opening up about our struggles. We all go through them, so let's help each other out. Let's talk about how college can be the most expensive, most frustrating, and the best college experience all at once. For real, my washing machine charges me $2 per load and then doesn't even fully dissolve the Tide Pod. What is that? It's college.
Sup, it's Sydney, and I don't know where exactly the idea for this video came from. I mean, it could be the multitude of mental breakdowns I've had about school in general within the past week, or it could be something else. My goal for this video is just to share my experiences on topics that are for some reason considered taboo in the college space, even though we all go through a lot of these things, but we just don't talk about them, and therefore I feel like they're very stigmatized, and I'm kind of sick of it because I would just like to have mental breakdowns freely without any judgment. I want this to be an open discussion about this stuff. Like a Canvas discussion, except less horrific and everyone's getting an A. Alright, let's talk about my issues. This is also a coping mechanism that college students use. To start us off, not feeling smart enough for your major/school. Personally, I think that I fit in at my school and can do well, but then I'm also in an academic program that was a little bit selective in the process, so there's only 40 people per grade in this business academic program, and I remember my freshman year learning about everyone else's accomplishments and just being like, wow, I do not deserve to be in this at all. I am literally on the executive board for this organization, and I still feel like my application should not have gotten chosen, and that there were probably hundreds of other way more competent and deserving people to have my spot. So if that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what will. At Penn State and in the Smeal College of Business, which is the college that I'm in, there is this thing called the entrance to major process. And it's basically a core set of classes that every student coming through Smeal takes in order to get into their major. So you have to take all these classes and do well enough to get a GPA that will then accept you into the major. And despite doing all of that, I get into my major class with everyone else having the same set of experiences in college, and I'm automatically like, yeah, everyone else is so much smarter than me. Like, genuinely, that doesn't even make any sense. We literally took the same steps in college to get to this spot. We all took calculus and did well enough. We all took econ and did well enough, accounting, and so forth. And for some reason, I'm like, I'm the idiot. For example, I'm in this supply chain class. I love the professor, I understand the material in class, I did the first homework just fine, and then it comes to our first take-home quiz, which is supposed to be hard, and you're supposed to collaborate with other people on because he knows that it's hard and he still wants us to do well and get the right answer. It gets assigned Tuesday, and it's due the next Tuesday, so we have a whole week to do it, and on Thursday of that week, he decides to hold a little review help session so that he can answer questions about it without giving us the actual answers. I decide I'm going to go to this Zoom session and I'm going to have all of the background work done for question 1 because you needed to get this same set of numbers and then you would have to kind of manipulate the data for each of the questions, and it was cumulative, so I didn't want to have any of the starting numbers wrong, or that would mean that it would just trickle down and all the other answers would be wrong. I do all of the background work in Excel. I understand the numbers. I didn't have a lot of trouble getting the numbers. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then I log on to the Zoom, and my confidence plummeted. A girl was already in the process of screen sharing her perfectly organized, color-coded 10-page spreadsheet with all of the questions answered. I was on question 1. And then other people start chiming in saying, oh, I got the same answer as you for 4. Oh, this looks really great. Do you want to just turn it in now? Oh, we got all of the same answers. And I'm like, uh-oh. About halfway through the Zoom review session, I finally mustered up the courage to ask about question 1, since everyone had only been asking about the last question the entire time. And my professor's like, yeah, of course, let me see your numbers. And I'm looking at my spreadsheet. Pale as a white boy in the middle of December. No color coding. Numbers everywhere. Question marks littered throughout. And I'm comparing it to that girl's professionally made, client-ready spreadsheet that I saw earlier with all the answers. And I literally say to the professor,
I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing my screen.
He's like, oh, just for a second, just so I can make sure that your starting numbers are right. So I screen share my spreadsheet. I can tell that the numbers are wrong by the looks on my professor's face. I feel intimidated by everyone else in the Zoom and just start thinking about how I should probably just consider doing a different major because this is so embarrassing and I'm clearly very stupid. Why does my mind automatically jump from my spreadsheet is not as good as the other girls to you should reconsider your entire college career and not do this major? You would have thought this take-home quiz was worth 75% of my grade in the class for the spiral that it put me into. It's worth 2%. I know that one little quiz does not, because I know that one little quiz should not define whether or not I belong in a particular major, and I also know that I did fine on it. So why couldn't I have recognized that earlier? I don't really think there is a conclusion to this point. I think the whole point of this video is that this is supposed to be an open conversation. So I guess the question I pose to you is, why can I point out the flaws in my own logic, but then not support and engage with that reasoning enough to not have these problems and jump from point A to point Z? Getting super lonely freshman year for the first 2 months. Yeah. I just feel like there's this pressure to be best friends with your roommates, to meet all of your besties at like orientation or something before you even start and just go into college with a huge group of friends. And that's just so unrealistic. Like, I met people my freshman year, first week of college, that I thought were super awesome and fun, and I literally never saw them again. And then there's friends I made freshman year that I now still live with, and then there's other ones that I thought were lifelong friends, and we turned out to not get along that well after a little while. It's weird because whenever you grow up going through a school district with elementary, middle, and high school, since I never moved, I felt like people just knew things about me, even if I didn't personally know them. So if I met someone new that was in the school district, they would at least have a general background knowledge about me. And in college, they don't have that. And I feel like that aspect really does perpetuate a culture of loneliness because you meet all of these new people, but they don't know a lot about you. Or if you stay with your hometown friends and are still friends with them, then you're not really branching out like you should be in college, and you're leaving your family and friends behind, and they actually knew a lot about you. It's just very odd, and you're also tackling a brand new environment that you've never been in. So naturally, you're going to feel very overwhelmed, and I think that causes loneliness as well. I think internally, freshman year, around the first 2 months, were probably the most challenging for me, even though externally they looked like the best 2 months. Also, I feel like the first 2 months of college are a breeding ground for Instagram posts. Like, everyone's putting up the facade of, oh my gosh, I love my university, me and my freshman year roommates are best friends forever, oh my god, college game day. And to be quite frank, I think it's totally okay to post stuff on Instagram and be like, yeah, I am having a fun time, but it does make it harder to destigmatize because people can assume that what you're posting on social media is also what you're feeling a majority of the time. And although sometimes I was having fun and going to game days, sometimes I was also crying in my room by myself because I didn't know if I belonged at Penn State. Kind of piggybacking off of that, no, I'm not going to say that. That actually feels like a Canvas discussion post. Like, whenever you have to post your own thing and then respond to other people's, everyone's just like,
to piggyback off of that idea, blah, 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 I totally agree.
Never saying that again. Related topic. Not feeling like you belong or feeling like you chose the wrong school. So, as I just said, I wasn't sure, and I feel like everyone isn't sure for the first couple months if that school that you chose is the school. You can do all the research you want, but until you're at that school taking classes from that school, you have no clue what it's actually like. I thought that maybe Penn State was the issue and that I didn't belong there, but what I think it really was the whole loneliness thing and stress and being overwhelmed just getting to my head and making me think that I didn't belong here, when in reality it was actually just me trying to adjust to college life. I literally haven't even told my mom this, so hi Pam, but there was a time during my first couple months of freshman year that I genuinely looked into transfer applications. To what school? I don't know. Did I ever fill them out? No, but I was really starting to consider that Penn State wasn't for me. It's just hard, like how are you supposed to know? I was 18 barely. Not that I'm that much older now. And when you're a freshman especially too, I feel like any little doubt in your mind about college just suddenly reflects on, oh, I must have chosen the wrong one. And that's not always the reason. It is for some people, and that's for sure, but it definitely wasn't for me. But I can relate to at least having those thoughts when I was a freshman. Adding an extra semester on, I think that should be considered super normal, like just a regular path for people to take. And I do agree that it's not considered that way, even though so many people do it. I can't touch personally on this as much because I still do plan on graduating in spring of 2022, which has been my intended graduation date since I started college. But my boyfriend, however, I'm not trying to expose you, it's just a good example. Text me. He's actually extending his college career, so instead of doing it in 4 years, he's doing it in 4.5. And to me, from an outside perspective, I think that was the best possible call because he is in what I consider to be such a hard major. I could literally never do it. Like math, absolutely not. And then you're talking about calculus and statistics that are impossibly combined into this hell that is actuarial science, and you have to take bonus exams outside of your exams in school. No, this whole topic kind of irritates me because I don't understand why graduating late is considered a bad thing. Because one, you're still graduating with the same piece of paper as someone else who graduated in your same major, just a little bit after them. Two, everyone learns at their own pace, and sometimes it's more beneficial for an individual to take things a little bit more slowly instead of rushing through it and not actually getting that thorough understanding. And three, you have people coming from all different circumstances and backgrounds, financially, socially, culturally. It's just, I think it's dumb. The sheer anxiety of feeling like you're not doing enough even when you're doing the most. This is so accurate, it actually pains me. I feel like I relate to this one the most when it comes to professional development opportunities, because I sometimes can kind of pigeonhole my focus on school, grades, clubs, and activities, and then professional development and my career is just lingering over here, and I'm like, I did not see it. Some people from a professional development perspective are just up here. They've had like 6 internships, they already have a full-time job lined up somehow, and it just kind of freaks me out. And I'm like, here, like I have done some work, I've secured an offer, you know, for a co-op and stuff like that, but I'm not on LinkedIn with 500 plus connections, you know? Something that helped me kind of begin to overcome this insecurity was that just because someone's up here doesn't mean that they're better than you when it comes to career opportunities and stuff like that. It just means that they've probably prioritized this more than you have. Because I still have time to figure out my future, and not everything has to be super planned out, you know? Like there's no reason for me to hyper focus about growing professionally whenever I have other things that I am worried about, and I've already been through 17 different existential crises that week. Looking at my phone, I literally have so many things that I didn't answer, but I've already been talking for way too damn long. Honestly, I have no idea how this video is going to be received. I feel like some people probably found this to be super boring and just want me to make jokes like I normally do, so I'll be back on that soon. but I feel like some people probably enjoyed this conversation and maybe found it relatable to their particular situation. I have so many topics that I didn't touch on that I would really like to, and if you want a part 2, just, well, not this way, but leave me a comment down below with your thoughts. I think my brain is dead now. I'll be back next week, probably, unless school gets too overwhelming. Oops.